Tax loopholes. There's one for Bobby Rahal. Some call it the Rahal rule. Disgraced and imprisoned coin dealer Tom Noe got one. It was called the Noe Amendment. And everybody gets this one. It's on line 9 of the state income tax form, a $20 personal tax exemption credit. They're technically called tax expenditures. With more than 120 of them on the books, they cost the state of Ohio about $7 billion a year.
We are encouraging kind of a reevaluation of all the tax expenditures to see if they still make sense for the state of Ohio.
Matt Mayer is with the Buckeye Institute, part of a trio of nonprofit think tanks joining together this year in a call for lawmakers to re-examine all the tax breaks and to wipe out some of them right away.
One provision benefits the customers of NetJets, generally fairly well-to-do people who are buying ownership shares in private aircraft.
Jets that cost millions of dollars to own and operate. What does the state see from the sales tax on those deals? $800, and not a penny more.
And that's about the same amount of sales tax you'd pay to buy this 7-year-old used car.
That sales tax break on private jets is worth about $1 million a year to the beneficiaries. State Representative Peter Beck is on a legislative committee charged with finding ways to reform the state tax code. He says behind each tax loophole there was a good reason. Even the cap on sales tax for people buying private jets.
Is there justification for keeping something like that on the books?
Well, there's justification for keeping something like that on books because it's an industry, it's business, and the whole purpose of what we were looking at tax expenditure is to bring more business into the state of Ohio.
NetJets issued a statement saying the tax exemptions related to fractional aircraft ownership are important to the fractional industry, the state of Ohio, and its taxpayers.
I want to ease the tax burden on lower-paid working families and on our senior citizens.
The $20 personal tax credit was pushed through in 1983 by Governor Dick Celeste and Senate Democrats in the wake of broader tax reform that had raised most people's taxes. It now costs the state $165 million a year. Tom Noe lobbied the State House in the late 80s for a sales tax exemption on investment coins and got it. It was wiped off the books in 2005. The so-called Rahal rule was created in the 90s and exempts professional auto racing teams from paying sales tax on the sale of race cars and race car parts. Just how specific can it get? Former State Tax Commissioner Joanne Limbaugh says at one time there was a loophole carved out for a drug company, exempting tax on the sale of an artificial hormone manufactured in the ovaries of Chinese hamsters when it was used in treating kidney disease.
The breaks for not paying sales tax on prescription drugs and food benefit almost all of us, but something that is only for an artificial hormone in the ovaries of Chinese hamsters really doesn't benefit very many people, so you may want to look at those kinds of exemptions.
Some of the other tax breaks under review are the $50 income tax credit for taxpayers 65 or older, a sales tax exemption on magazine subscriptions, and the tax credit for campaign contributions to candidates for statewide office or the General Assembly. State Democratic Party Chairman Chris Redfern says while self-serving for politicians, the campaign contribution credit was designed in the mid-90s with noble intentions.
It was in response to growing cynicism in state government and as a way to try and get voters and those involved in the political process more intimately so through financial giving and using the tax credit as a way to do so.
Many of the tax loopholes are 20, 30, even 40 years old, and doing away with any of them will be a delicate process. Representative Beck says lawmakers are not interested in raising anyone's taxes.
We want to make sure that the tax code is simple. If we're going to eliminate a tax expenditure, we want to lower the tax rate. With the tax, money's coming into the state should be the same, and so because we want to lessen the burden on the taxpayer.
Even though some tax breaks are costly and hard to justify any longer, a straight repeal would be perceived as a tax hike for someone, and that's a conversation stopper at the State House these days. Ted Hart, NBC4.
Seemed like it was